Life during a pandemic is hard enough for so many. For some, being single has made it even harder. If this is your story or you have a friend or relative who fits this category, then this is a must listen to program. Also in this program, Alonta Wrighton will be chatting with another interesting young academic achiever. This is Brooklyn 45, and I'm Sam Tate. There are unspeakable challenges many single women and men are having to deal with during this COVID pandemic. Joining me to discuss these are Florence Abanda, a guidance counselor who will share her experiences, and Freedgy Thelisma, a psychotherapist. Welcome to Brooklyn 45.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Florence, we're going to begin with you because you're lady to begin with, and this program is also about ladies, specifically about ladies. I want to hear some of the experiences that you've had.
Well, before COVID even started, dating was a challenge for me. When COVID happened, it just became even more challenging where we have online dating. And online dating before COVID wasn't great for me either. So after COVID, it was more like, everything is closed. So the only option is come to my crib. And I'm like, no, that's not an option before. And it's not an option now because we have COVID. So it's just men became more bold to ask these ludicrous requests, thinking that I was going to oblige them. And the answer was still no. And till today, it's still no. And I'm really trusting on the Lord because I know he has my king out there. It's going to continue to be a challenge for me. And I know there's other women that can relate, but I'm going to hold steadfast to knowing that I know what I want and I know who I am as a woman. And I know that I have so much more to offer than coming to your crib for a first date. Yeah.
Don't you miss the physical touch?
Sorry. Well, I do get my hugs every so often from my male friends. They come, and if I greet them, of course, with social distance, we give a hug. And I think that's good for now because I don't want to have any babies running around with no ring on my finger. That's always been my motto. So I need a ring on my finger, quartz, all that stuff, because I deserve that. My mom had that, and I want the same thing my mom had.
So can I just want to say, just shout out to you, Florence. I definitely appreciate your perspective, right? And I know that dating for females was tough before COVID, and COVID kind of turned the world upside down, and it took away the engagement, the physical engagement process. And we all know we connect better if we're physically engaging. And oftentimes people can kind of create different personas and different personalities by becoming online, when you're going into the online realm of dating. So I do empathize with you in understanding how the dating scene can be very, very different, especially amidst COVID. And it's one of the things that I feel just working in a mental health space, right? That isolation and folks feeling alone, right? Especially in this era where we have all of this technology that can connect us in many different ways, right? That, like Sam said, that touch is definitely missing. It's definitely missing out there.
Freedgy, you talk about online dating. How do you handle, if you do handle, Florence, online dating? And what does that do for you?
What I thought it did for me, I thought it gave me comfort, especially when I would get compliments. And I'm like, okay, here are these strangers of all different races giving me these wonderful compliments. And God will remind me, you already know you're a queen. You already know you're beautiful. You need these strangers to tell you that, who obviously don't have good thoughts, most of them. They don't have my best interest. So it came to the point, okay, yes, I'm lonely. It's COVID. I go online. I click on, okay, oh, I got a message. What does the message say? Oh, wow, you're so beautiful. When can we meet up? I'm like, okay, well, social distance, maybe we can meet at a park. Oh, park, too many people. I said, okay, then we can't meet. So it's like you have your hopes get built up because you're getting this compliment and you're talking back and forth with this guy online. And then it gets to the point of, okay, Now it stops because of something inappropriate he may say, or if you do exchange numbers, then it's like a picture of his private. Did I ask you for a picture of your private? Like, I'm a grown woman, I'm 41. I know how that looks by now. I mean, I've known how that looked from since they taught us, physical education from high school. That's not something new. That's not going to entice me to be like, oh yes, I'm coming over right now. We can meet anywhere you want to meet. No, it's a complete turn off. And you know what I do? And I'm telling ladies out there, and even men too, I report them. I report the profile, I report it, and they respond back to me and they say, you know what, we're going to investigate. We're going to investigate this user because we don't tolerate that. So women out there, report them. They sending you something inappropriate, whether it's online or offline, they still have a profile, report their butts because they need to stop that nonsense. Yes, because I had one person told me that he had the cure for coronavirus in his private part. I said, no, you do not. That's before the vaccine came out. I said, you do not have the cure down there, and you will never have the cure down there. Not for me.
So I just wanted jump in and piggyback off what Florence is saying, right? One of the things that's a big challenge, especially amidst COVID, is the saturation of all these different outlets that's going to get people from across the spectrum with different things going on. Some folks that you probably would have never engaged with physically, they have this outlet to contact and communicate with folks because people are in a very vulnerable space, right? COVID kind of created a vulnerable space. So we're trying to connect in ways that we're not familiar with, or it may be new to us. And there's a floodgate of people saturating these systems. So, one of the things that I tell folks that I work with about when it, coming to online dating, it's all about your assessment skills, right? It's all about learning how to assess a profile effectively. Yet, this is a learning curve. So we're going to be engaging. We're going to get people doing things that may be out of line, out of our comfort zone, but we want to be familiar with entering into uncharted territory, and we don't know who's going to be on these different platforms. And it's something to be expected because of the level of anonymity, right? Folks can have, like, I can be anybody if I create an online, avatar. So I think in dating, especially in the midst of this period, people have to learn to kind of take a step back and learn, how do we assess these different systems? How do we evaluate which ones have the best potential candidates? Because it's a flood of them out here. And with the flood of them out here, we're connecting a global community, right? So we're going to have people from all different walks of life that would probably never approach you in real life going onto these platforms. So one of the things with engaging in online dating is a lot about learning to assess, right? And I commend you for flagging folks that are doing inappropriate things, because that's how you kind of could try to create safer environments on these online platforms. But assessment skills are going to be very important. I tell folks to learn to assess a quality profile. If somebody's putting quality content in their profile, they're taking online dating a little more seriously. If people have various pictures, you can kind of authenticate if that's them. When folks are engaging in phone conversations, utilize the FaceTime, right? Because anybody can say whatever on a text message, but when folks have to get face to face, we get more of people's authentic selves. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to get the weirdos, the creeps that's doing things that are out of line. But when we learn how to engage with how do people create meaningful profiles, we'll get more serious candidates. And how do we assess the profiles? Because certain profiles, the world is on there and there's other profiles out there. I will say, if we have the means, invest in online dating, because there's certain online platforms that you can pay money to get into, which is going to weed out a lot of some of the nonsense or a lot of the noise, right? So these are just some tips, right, I could give for that. Yet I will say, COVID, it turned the world upside down. We're in this new normal. This is a new outlet, right? As the world is opening up, I think it's important for us to try to engage with people within our communities as safe as possible. But we have multiple ways to meet new people, but we also have to learn how to screen and assess effectively.
What about the anxiety and even depression that accompanies your attempts at online dating and your other activities during this period?
So for me, I will say depression is on an all-time high, right? It's a major effect, especially in communities of color, right? Folks that are accustomed to kind of that physical engagement, them not being able to engage as much is creating depression at an all-time high. Yet I think it, I mean, COVID gave us the opportunity to get a little more introspective, right? To kind of build a relationship with self, right? And in building a relationship with self, that can be very difficult because we're not accustomed to just being
So,
isolated in a moment,
mhm.
right? So I think that is an opportunity, right, in terms of getting more introspective. Yet we have to engage with our families, our friends, our peer groups nonetheless. Yes, COVID has told us we have to stay 6 feet apart, but there's still technology like Zoom, FaceTime. I could tell you a lot of folks don't engage in the technology and they're still having phone calls and feel like they're not seeing anyone since COVID started, yet people are not taking full advantage of the Zooms, the online platforms where folks could kind of get together, right? And folks don't even have to be in the same community, right? You can see people in their living spaces in different states. You could kind of form get together with folks that you probably would have never got together outside of the COVID period. So I think we have to fully engage with the technology and take full advantage of it because yes, this is a temporary moment, but in order for us to get out of that feeling of isolation, I think engaging with the technology or just engaging with folks in a safe manner, right? Wear
Yeah.
the proper PPE and you can
Florence, you're
be
shaking
around
your head.
folks.
What are your stories about the anxiety that you've been affected?
I would say,
Even depression, yes.
yeah, I would say there were points where I was doubtful, where I started saying, especially when we were at the peak of it, of the pandemic, oh my goodness, what's gonna be the new normal for dating? How would I meet that special someone? Like all these different thoughts. And of course I had coworkers even prior to COVID, they were like, oh, try Match, try Christian Mingle, try. And I've been paying. I've lost amount of how much I must have spent on the top dating sites like you had suggested, Mr. Freddie. Did I say your name right?
Freedgy.
Mr.
Freedgy.
Fiji. My apologies, Mr. Fiji.
No
And I
problem.
took their advice because they're in happy marriages and they met their spouses on Christian Mingle, Match.com, and they've been married 10 years plus. But for some reason, that hasn't been my story. And I'm very, I take my time in picking out the kind of pictures I want because I don't want guys to look at, because I do have a shape, I do have a nice body, but I want them to see, okay, look at my profile, not look so much at, okay, what I'm wearing, am I showing cleavage? No, I want you to zoom in. I have a nice short story, not too long, and say, you know what, I'm going to send this young lady a message. This profile is just great. Not because, oh, wow, I see her boobs. Oh my goodness, this. No. So I try to make sure I pick a picture that sends a message that I'm serious, that I'm ready to take the step of getting to know someone and see what happens from there. So even with the paid ones, it's like being on Tinder, even with the paid ones. So you got the ones that's paying and basically playing.
Freegee, what are some of the health issues that people you are in contact with seek advice from you on?
So in terms of just mental health services and things that people are seeking out, a lot of folks are dealing with not being able to find healthy foods. And we're talking about folks that are under the poverty line and needing access to good quality food. That is an issue. That is a challenge that folks are dealing with. Another one is access to quality care because they feel like the quality of mental health care is different, right? Access to quality health care because they're doing everything through these remote systems. And oftentimes they're being railroaded through calling places and not being able to kind of get in touch with folks, right? And that being a discouragement to folks. So so a lot of folks are trying to navigate this new normal. Florence used the term new normal, right? Trying to navigate this new normal. And it's very discouraging to folks because these systems are being inundated with a lot of folks that are going through lots of issues, and folks feel like they're drowning, right, in this pool of folks that's dealing with lots of different illnesses. So across the board, it's things like access to quality care, right, medical care, uh, other mental health supports for their children, right? Access to quality supports in terms of education tools. So families are kind of suffering with getting the adequate support for children that are in the education system that are working remotely, but they're not necessarily connecting with their academic process. So it's across the board. In terms of supports and services, people need supports and services across the board, from adults to children, from food care, access to quality food to access to quality care. So, and that seems to be a challenge because quality for folks is that personal connection, and a lot of that is lost, right? So it's access to quality for their perception of quality care has radically changed, right? So they have to. So, and I want to give one anecdotal story. I have one person that he's the way he would escape from his environment was going to his services, but now all of his services are happening at home. So, in a time frame where he appreciated going for the walk, he's now gaining a lot of weight. He's staying home, right? And he feels like his health is deteriorating because he's not even going outside. And and this is because he has no purpose when he's going outside, right? He's afraid to kind of walk around his own community, and he would choose to take certain types of walks to his care service providers, and that's not there anymore. So that's radically changed folks.
Florence, you talked a bit about these religious services and religious activities. Have you been able to go to church? I know lots of people are not able to go to church, and very often that's where you meet your significant other, or that's where you can have this exchange of ideas, the conversations. How do you handle that?
Well, there's no available candidates in my church, so I have been able to go to church in person, and it's not the same. You have members that, of course, yes, you got to keep your faith. God's supposed to protect you no matter what. But you see the fear even underneath the mask. And you're like, wow, this is church. This is where you're supposed to feel safe. And there's members, because, yes, we're in a time, especially with COVID, you don't know what could happen. They're probably concerned, oh my goodness, if I go to church, is one of the sisters going to give it to me? One of the brothers going to give it to me? You shouldn't have that kind of thought process even going into church. And I'm very blessed to say that I have been able to go in person, and also we have the option to listen online. So that has also been a blessing for those who can't even make it because of illnesses or even transportation or whatever the case may be. So that's good if a church offers that option.
We've got about 2 minutes left. Freedgy, let's talk about the services you offer. We've only got 1 minute to do that, and how people can get in touch with you.
Okay, so I work for Rockaway Parkway Center Clinic. That's 1310 Rockaway Parkway Avenue in Brooklyn. I'm a psychotherapist there. I do have some slots available. So if you look up Rockaway Parkway Center Clinic and call and request for me, I can provide services there. My email is also freedgy@gmail.com. So if you wanted to email me, you could email me directly.
Okay, and Florence, one last word from you.
This has been awesome. And those of you who are single like myself, keep the faith and don't settle. Know your worth.
Okay, we've got less than a minute. Freedgy, we had a conversation and you were talking about the MALK. Is this information available anywhere? Because we don't have time to talk about it now, but our listeners, I'm sure, and our viewers would love to hear about it.
All right, so it's an acronym that I made up. MILK is an acronym for self-care. M stands for moments. I take time for yourself. I stands for intimacy, people that you're close to. L stands for laughter. Laughter is medicine to the soul, and K stands for kinship. Got milk, like the old adage used to say. So make sure you get your milk, right? That's a self-care acronym. So it's an acronym I made up. There's nowhere that it exists.
Okay. I love it. I love it. You need laughter. I love it. That's great.
Okay. Yes, we're going to put it on our website, brooklyn45.com. Awesome. I want to thank you, Florence, Abanda, and
it's a pleasure.
I'm sorry. Yes, indeed. And Freedgy, Thelisma. I've got it right, Freedgy?
Got it. You got it.
Okay. We invite you who have watched our program to partner with Brooklyn 45 and go to our website and get some other information.
Thanks, Sam. Joining us today is Daniel Dudley, representing Canarsie in Brooklyn, New York, a senior at Kew Forest School, active member and volunteer at the Church of God of East Flatbush under Bishop Nelson, model, United Nations Club member, and future engineer. Welcome to Brooklyn 45, Daniel.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Thank you. It's our pleasure. So we have a lot to cover this evening. So let's start talking about your academic and your extracurricular successes and endeavors. Briefly, let's talk about the special classes that you've taken as a high school student over the last few years and what's so special about these particular classes.
I believe that my most notable classes during my time in high school include AP Computer Science, AP Spanish, AP Art, AP US History, Honors International Relations, Honors Spanish, Honors Trigonometry, Statistics, Genetics, and Game Design.
Wow. Now, all this honors, AP, tell us more about that. What's that about?
Of the courses that I've taken, I favored my honors and AP courses, and this is because they were full of rigor and more challenging, and they also gave me more insight on what college life would look like.
Right, because of the challenge and the rigor.
Yes.
Yes. So as a high school senior, you, of course, applied to various universities and colleges, correct?
Yes, I have.
Right. Right. So which colleges did you receive acceptances to, and which is your pick and why?
During my time in the application process so far, I've received acceptance to Worcester College, Worcester Polytechnic Institute, Long Island University, Loyola University in New Orleans, Curry College, and New Mexico University. Of these colleges, my top choice is Worcester Polytechnic Institute. Worcester Polytechnic Institute is a private and close-knit STEM institution, and it is known for many of its facilities in engineering. In gaining an education there, I would be given the necessary skill set I need to become a design engineer. A design engineer usually works in or with a group of other engineers and other types of designers to develop concept designs.
Okay, so a design engineer. And have you prepared yourself in high school to fulfill that dream of yours to be a design engineer?
Yes, to become a design engineer, I was able to take previous classes such as computer science, game design, robotics, to allow me to get the experience I need to become an engineer.
Well, along with that, the fact that you want to be a design engineer, that's impressive in and of itself. But we've talked about some other accomplishments that I know you have under your belt, and I would love for the Brooklyn 45 audience to hear all that you have been doing. So what are you most proud of that you can share with us?
I would have to say that my greatest accomplishment was gaining acceptance in the Prep for Prep program in the 5th grade. Prep for Prep is a leadership development and gifted program. The program offers promising students of color access to private school education. Through Prep for Prep, I was able to receive acceptance into the Allen Stevenson School.
Okay. Anything else that you want to share?
Through Prep for Prep and Alan Stevenson, I was also able to visit La Carpio, which is a small town in Costa Rica, whose population consists of Nicaraguan refugees. During my time there, we created houses and also refurbished houses that were damaged due to landslides. We primarily used cement, cinder blocks, and steel reinforcement bars. The trip also allowed me to use my knowledge in the engineering field to create a filtration system for the people of La Carpio. The filtration system contained two parts. On the top part of the filtration system was a sand and carbon floor where once the water entered, it would be filtered out through to the bottom, and then the water at the bottom would be filtered into a boiler, which would then purify the water.
Wow. And this was a team of other high school students that did this work in Costa Rica?
Yes, this was a team effort. Together, we were able to build filtration systems at about 10 wells in La Carpio.
Wow. That is just so impressive. So you're also a member of the United Nations Club, and I know we don't have a lot of time, so can you briefly talk about that?
Yes, I am a member of the Model United Nations Club. Model United Nations, also known as Model UN or MUN, is an extracurricular activity where students across the country and the world typically role play as delegates of the United Nations and simulate United Nations committees. Participation in this extracurricular activity has allowed me to learn more about sensitive issues in the world and particular countries while practicing diplomacy, public speaking, critical problem solving, and leadership.
Well, Daniel, we can go on forever because you have done so many amazing things, and we unfortunately have run time because you're so chock full of impressive accolades. So, future design engineer, we are so immensely proud of you, young man. We wish God's favor in your accomplishments, and we do thank you so much for being a part of the Brooklyn 45 evening. Okay? Keep in touch. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
A pleasure. And I'm allowed to back to you, Sam.
We are a 501c3 not-for-profit community television program. When you support us, you support our communities and our communities benefit. So please support us and tell everyone you know on social media about us. On behalf of our Brooklyn 45 team, I am Sam Tate.
Brooklyn 45 is a 501c3 not-for-profit, and we welcome your support. Check out our website, brooklyn45.com, and feel free to donate or share it with your friends and family. Have any comments or questions? Send them to our Facebook, facebook.com/brooklyn45tv. If you have any questions or topics you think we should cover next, shoot me an email over at brooklyn45tv@gmail.com. Thank you again for watching.